But yeah, we have to pull the trigger. But yeah. Hello there, guys. If you don't know me, I'll do a quick introduction. I'm Cervantes, known as Cervantes or Serva. I've played DK throughout the years. I've played the spec of Unholy. I played the spec of Frost. I played the spec of Blood throughout the years. I played DK competitively in tournaments and in arenas. And I've qualified to multiple tournaments such as BlizzCon, multiple years such as GCDs or online tournaments. I've played in many of them. I've played in regionals tournaments as well in Europe and America. I've played in almost every tournament that has happened throughout the year since Cataclysm or MOP, and after that onwards. I've achieved multiple rank ones as the DK class and as other classes as well. And today I'm delivering an Unholy guide as promised to my community and to the people that watch me, to the people that enjoyed the stream and wanted and always asked about this guide. There it is today. So today I will be talking about a lot of things. The timing of the guide was now is because we just got 3k and 3s. We got rank 2 world. And we are aiming to get rank on world, but I thought it's a good point to stop pushing some ratings and do a guide for my stream about everything they need to know to reach that themselves and to learn on their own. So here it is, boys. Here it is. The stuff I will be talking about in the guide will be rotation. We're gonna start with some DK rotation, like pretty basic stuff. I'm gonna start with the basic stuff and go more advanced like throughout the guide. But for now, I'm gonna talk about pretty basic stuff, which is rotation. After rotation, I'll be talking about gameplay and then some tricks for DK and possibly PvP. Then I'm gonna talk what do I think about my macros, my add-ons, and my key bindings. I'm gonna talk about DK traits. I'm gonna talk about talents and PvP talents. I'm gonna talk about essences, stats, corruption gear, cloak, and 2v2 comps. Then I'm gonna talk about which healers are the best for DK and 2s and why, and how do I prefer every healer to play with me. Like, do I prefer my healers to play aggressive with me or defensive with me? For each different healer or each different class. And then I'm going to talk about some 3v3 comps and matchups, 2v2 stuff, positioning in general. Then I'm going to talk about the hardest 4 matchups in 2s, which is typically Windwalker, Lock, Destruction Lock, Rogue, and D-ish. Those 4 are the hardest typically. I'm going to talk about those matchups a little bit and how do I play them. Then I'm going to talk about how do I play and prepare to play against the double DPS team. And then how do I peel my healer a little bit while playing aggressive. And then I got a lot of questions from the stream that I will be talking about, but mainly this will be the major points that we're gonna go for one by one. And here it is, boys. So rotation, I'm gonna talk about my rotation like right here on Orgrimmar. Straight to the dummies, boys. Straight to the dummies. I'm gonna try to go a little bit over the spells and what do I think of every spell, just in case you're completely like out of the loop and you didn't play DK much this expansion. So that would help some people for sure. That will help some people for sure. Here we are, boys. Here we are. Training dummies. Damage. Damage. I'm gonna go damage dummies. I'm gonna start with the spells actually, one by one, just to make sure everyone is like updated and they know what spells I'm talking about, just in case they don't even play DK themselves. Anti-magic shell, it's an absorb. You use it defensively to prevent magic damage. It's pretty cool, pretty good. 1 minute cooldown, not that long of a cooldown. You want to save it to either avoid CC with or to live and not like die. It absorbs a lot of damage, so it helps you living if someone is casting a firebolt on you or a pyroblast or a Chaos Bolt. It will definitely help you to live if you use Anti-Magic Shell on that. Apocalypse is damaging ability. You use it to basically summon 4 zombies and does big burst damage when you do that. Asphyx is a stun on a 45-second cooldown. It's pretty good. Stun, short cooldown, not so long duration, but it's pretty decent. 4 seconds. Chains of Ice is the slow of Death Knight. You're gonna be using a lot. Dark Transformation is where you transform your pet and make it slightly bigger, and pet gains abilities when it's transformed. You can move it to get a kick, you can move it to get a stun, and it helps with a lot of things to transform your pet and make it bigger. It does, for sure. Pet transformation. Death and Decay is typically used to do damage on the ground, or stop drinks in arena environment, or to get you in combat, or to get someone out of stealth. There's a lot of usage for this ability, but those are the 4 that are mostly common for, or like for it to be used for mostly. Death Coil, pretty much iconic ability about Death Knight. It's a Death Coil, it does damage, it's a ranged ability. It's a pretty good filler to spend runic power with when you can Death Strike or when you're full HP. Other than the Death Grip, you can grip someone from far, close to you, to kill them or to stop a cast with. There's a lot of users for it, but typically it's used to stop a cast from a healer, or to stop a cast from a caster, or to grip someone closer so you can hit them, or you can abuse the position of the grip. A lot of users for it, but yeah, there it is. Death Strike, it heals you, obviously. It does a little bit of damage and it heals you. Death Advanced. This is a bit important to know about Death Advanced. Not a lot of people know that, but when you Death Advance, you're immune to knocks. So you're immune to Vortex, you're immune to Boomy Knock, Typhoon, or Thunderstorm from Shaman. It's pretty good. It also gives you speed when you use it, so you're faster, you move slightly faster than usual. It's pretty good if you can time it to not get knocked. If you see a shaman coming close to you from far, trying to, or approaching you to knock you, you can use it and you will be immune to the knock. So you basically autoplay that shaman by immuning his knock. Or you can use it to immune stuff as Ring of Peace on the ground. You can go through Ring of Peace from monks. It's a circle they put on the ground that will not allow you to like go through, or it will not allow you to go through or walk in that area. So when you Death Advance, you're immune to that and you can go through it. Other than that, yeah, just immunes almost every knock ability slash gives you the speed. Festering Strike is an important ability. So those two are connected in a way. Festering and Necrotic Strike. Festering is the one that gives you festering wounds. So every time you want to build up pressure on a target as DK, you want to get festering wounds on the target. To get festering wounds, you need Festering Strikes. And every Festering Strike gives you 3. Basically 2 to 4, it depends what talents you're playing. But you want to reach 6 Festering Wounds before you start doing Necrotics. Typically, that's the best thing you can do. In some situations you don't have to, in some situations you don't need to, and it's better to keep the pressure going. But if you have the time to build up the 6 stacks, you should, because every time you use the other ability we were talking about, Necrotic Strike, you need to have the Festering Wounds. Every Necrotic consume 1 wound from the target. So that's why you want to do that. Those two are connected in a way. Festering Wounds is important and essential to use Necrotic and to use Apocalypse. Apocalypse, we're gonna talk about it, or we talked about it earlier. It's right there. To use it, you need 4 Festerings. So you want to make sure you have 4 Festerings when you want to use that ability to summon the zombies and consume the 4 Festerings. Other than that, Icebound, it's basically the wall or the big defensive cooldown for DK. It lasts for 8 seconds, and it's a 3-minute cooldown. It gets you out of stuns, so make sure to use this only when you're like about to die, or you want to avoid something really important, or you want to take less damage, or you want to use it offensively to finish someone off. If a healer is about to die or someone is about to die and you get stunned, you can use it and pump him up. Mind Freeze is the kick. You can kick heals / casts from casters. It's really important. You want to keep using that regularly. With Outbreak, Outbreak is the ability that deliver the disease of Death Knight. So 2 things you want to always start with is Outbreak and Fisting Strikes, and then from there you build up all the diseases on the target, then you start using cooldowns and go from there. The rest of the abilities are pretty important as well. A-Bomb is one of the pets you can summon to do damage with you and cleave people with diseases or just like normal damage. It's pretty good, pretty important to time it well with the other cooldowns. So when you want to use your zombies, you want to always A-Bomb with the zombies and pet transformation, and then after using those 3, you want to aim to use your Unholy Frenzy and pump as much as you can with the fisting wounds you've already built up on a target and the Necro Strikes. This is typically the idea of DK and how to verse as DK. But that's everything when it comes to spells. The rest are just not as important. This is the res that you basically just summon your pet with this one. Scorch Strike is basically connected to Fisting Strike as well. So to consume the Fisting Wounds, there's 3 ways, or 2 ways that you spam consume it with. Necrotic Strike and Scorch Strike. Those 2 strikes / abilities are the ones you can choose to use. And basically, you never scourge nowadays in PvP unless they buff it or they change something after this patch. But for now, it's too weak to use. Never use Scorch Strike. Don't have it on your bars even. You can just remove it from your bars. I keep it on my bars because I do PvE sometimes and do world quests while I'm streaming, while I'm playing arenas, while I'm just like chilling, or you know, I just keep it on my bars to be able to kill some PvE mobs every now and then. But it's not needed, it's not recommended in PvP. Necrotic Strike should be the only thing you're consuming your strikes with, or your Fisting Wounds with. Soul Reaper, you just throw it when you don't have runes and you want that extra damage. It's a dot on the target. It's dispellable, so you can use it after dispels if you can, to keep that extra damage safe from being dispelled. Gives you 2 runes back and haste if you kill a target with it, but you're probably not gonna kill a target in arena unless they are really low. It's typically just a filler when you don't have runes, or used as a filler when you don't have runes. I think this is pretty basic information, but I think it's worth for a lot of people to just like have it there. If they are like pretty fresh, or they didn't play DK throughout the expansion, or they just came back and you know they want to like start from scratch. Now this is like basics, and what I'm gonna talk about rotation now. It's gonna be like, since we talked about the spells, I'm not gonna be explaining spells anymore. I'm gonna just like point out the names of the spells I use and how would I use them, how would I approach like a burst, and what my rotation would be, and then talk about some tricks. So if I want to go like and burst pretty quick, usually my way is like just like starting with some diseases, going for some Fisting Wounds. At this point I try to like recover some runes, pump up my Apocalypse, get some more Fistering. Now I summon my A-Bomb, transform my pet, and Holy Frenzy, and spam Necrotic. This is my max burst coming all up together. I have my Orc ratio also macroed with my Frenzy. This is the biggest pump you can probably deliver. You can maximize the pump with a bit of BVE trinkets usage on the side. You can maximize the pump by, you know, slowing your target, not letting him kite you. A lot of little things that would improve that. But typically that's what my rotation is. And then after that, you either wait for all your big cooldowns to come back and line them up together, or you don't and use one by one as soon as it's back. I typically use everything as soon as it's back if I have the momentum still. So if I have the momentum of the fight and someone is still about to die or someone is struggling to live against me, I would use the cooldowns I get back as soon as I get them back. If I don't have the momentum, I'll probably just wait for everything and try to line them up again, so I have that big burst again. But it really depends on your preference and what's going on in the fight. It's pretty situational. And other than that's my rotation. I'm gonna talk about like some defensive stuff. So defensively, you want to use Chains of Ice and Anti-Magic Shield and Icebound and Death Strikes in a really good way. Now I'm gonna talk about one by one individually because they are really important stuff, and that's what makes DK survive. DK's right now is pretty squishy this patch. We are pretty weak and squishy defensively. Offensively, we don't have the biggest burst. But if you get the right corruption to back it up, if you have the right corruption to back it up, it's not him, dude. Is it him? But anyway, let's talk about it after the stream, Dak. If you have something to back it up, what the fuck was I saying, man? Oh boys, let's space the fuck out. I'm back, boys. We're back on the guide. I'm gonna start again with my tricks and how to live with the defensive abilities. Yeah, and it will be 4 things I use to live usually. Death Strike is really important. This ability is really important to be timed well. This is a very tricky part for DK. If you don't time Death Strikes well, you don't heal much. So basically the idea of Death Strike, if you read the ability, it heals 40% of the damage taken in the last 5 seconds, plus 10% of your HP. So the more damage you take, within those 5 seconds after taking that damage, you heal more. You heal 40% of that damage taken. So if you take a bolt from a lock, or a pyroblast from the mage, you take a lot of damage. You drop to 50%. You want a Death Strike as soon as that happens, and you take big burst damage, then you will heal more after taking the damage within that 5-second window. Make sure to abuse that. This is very crucial, very important thing about Death Strike. If you don't abuse that, you're not healing much as DK, or as much as you should be healing. That's really important. Second thing is Anti-Magic Shell. Anti-Magic Shell, you want to use it either to avoid CC with, or to avoid a CC with, either to avoid CC with or to avoid damage with, such as like dot damage or magic damage. It's any magic damage, use it to avoid that. Pretty simple, not that complicated. Death or Icebound Fortitude is the wall of DK. It gets you out of stuns. You can use it as a stun trinket. It's a damage reduction as well. Pretty important, pretty cool. You want to watch out with the cooldown of it. It's pretty long CD, so you don't want to throw it on something that's not so important. You want to keep it until you're about to die, or your healer is about to die, and you want to get out of that stun to help your healer. And yeah, use it that way. The last thing that will help you live defensively is Chains of Ice. So I typically always keep Chains of Ice on multiple targets in arena to live. If there's a Demon Hunter on me, I'll try kite him with the Chains of Ice, otherwise I lose the matchup. If there's a Windwalker, I try to kite him with Chains of Ice. I chain, slow him, and then run away from him. If there's a rogue on my healer, and I want to help my healer, I always Chains of Ice that rogue throughout the match. Every time I could, I Chains of Ice, keep that slow on him, annoy him as much as I can with it. Don't let it fall down. Now also one important thing, on your main target, you want to keep the slow up. So this is my target, I'm pumping him. I'm popping every CD non-stop, dude. I'm going crazy, like, he's dying, this guy's dying, but the slow fell, and I need to reset it as soon as it falls. Otherwise he'll get away from you, and you will get slowed and will fuck up your burst in a way. So try to keep away from, keep very close to the target you're hitting, and keep the chains vice up 24/7. Other than that, I think that's all when it comes to like abusing like those things like the strike / chains of ice / like anti-magic shield or icebound fortitude. I think that's all. There's not so much like more to it. We did cover rotation, we did cover some tricks when it comes to like defensively, death strike and such. We did read the spells, we did... Now I think we should talk a little bit about the pet, or pet management. It's very important and very sensitive topic. People are always confused about it. My pet is typically always on assist because it helps me with the fight. It's always attacking my target passively, or when I put it on passive is when I wanna get out of combat or when I wanna reposition it. I want it back to me on the pillar. Otherwise, I will never have it on passive. I will just have it on assist. It will assist me throughout the fight. It will be there helping me. So I'll keep it on assist. Other than that, there is a pet attack which help you or which order your pet to attack the target you're attacking. Pet gno or no, which is the stun of the pet. Now the stun is a bit tricky here. The stun would be very quick, like a second, if your pet is not transformed. Now you want to make sure that you know if your pet is transformed, the stun becomes 2 seconds. So I typically almost never stun without a pet being transformed unless I want to stop a cast with, or I want to stop a heal from a healer and I don't have my mind freeze, so I try to like pet stun him on it, either if my pet is transformed or not. But other than that, try to use the stun when your pet is transformed. Pet huddle is the pet defensive ability. When your pet is rotting or about to die, you want a pet huddle. It helps your pet to live. Your pet takes less damage then. It's pretty important when you see your pet dying, just throw it out there. It makes your pet pop that defensive shield. It takes less damage. It's pretty important. Other than that, hit leap, which is can be used in 2 ways. If your pet is not transformed, it's just a leap like that. It just charges, or leaps or jumps. But that's the important part about it. When your pet is transformed, your pet becomes a kick. So you can kick a cast, or a heal, or a polymorph, or a chaos bolt, or a pyroblast with that pet kick, or that pet leap. And that only can happen when your pet is far away from the target. So if I'm close to that target, if I'm very close, my pet is not usable. It has to always have range between the target and the pet. And what I do is, I transform my pet. Now my pet leap became a kick, or it will kick at the target. I'm hitting this guy. What I do, I always move pet. There's a move pet ability, which helps you to move your pet away. I always move pet away while I'm doing or killing someone. Now my pet is away, then I use the leap that kicks the target when my pet is away. So if your pet is close, this will not work. You want to make sure to move your pet away when you do that. And that's the important part, or the part that people struggle to do while they are doing everything else, because this is an extra action you need to do. And when you're doing everything else and trying to focus on the game or the match that's going, it's kind of hard to do it fast and do it good and still get the kick landed on a cast. So this is what you want to practice and what you want to work on. I'm gonna demonstrate one more time just to make sure while I'm fighting this guy. I'm gonna try to like hit him now and start the pump. My disease is right here, refreshed. Now I kicked him, I stunned him, I gripped. I don't have more kicks. I'm out of kicks. The only way I can kick, transform my pet, move it away, and then pet kick him. That's the kick because the pet is transformed. That's explained. Yeah, just make sure to practice that, practice it. Now sometimes the healer is behind this pillar, assuming that's a pillar. I try to move my pet to that corner and try to land the kick like that on that healer that's standing here. That's also away, so make sure to abuse the pet move quite a lot. Make sure to have a key binding for every pet ability. Like for me, every pet ability I have a key binding for it, and I use the key bindings or the shortcuts to make it faster, smoother, and better with my gameplay. So make sure to keybind all your pets, abilities and stuff. Pet follow, it will just make it to follow you or order it to follow you after you move it somewhere. If you move it somewhere, it will still stay there and stand there. It will not come close and move with you. You need to like change back to pet follow, and now you're back. Claw, you will have to have it always on. Yeah, you will have to have it always on auto because it's the damage that your pet does. Never change it from auto. Everything else should be changed off auto or automatic cues. So make sure to do that as well. Few tricks or other tricks I do or stuff I do is canceling my pet a lot. Not a lot of DKs do that, but I do cancel my pet a lot. So right now I'm sending my pet on this guy. And my pet is dying. My pet, let's assume my pet is like around 20% HP, not full health. I would always, and I'm stuck in a route. I try to do this in my downtime, not while I'm bursting someone, but in my downtime. When I'm stuck in a route, I always try to do this. I always try to like summon a new pet if my pet is low HP, if I'm in a route. So I summon a new pet right here. Other thing I worry about is people abusing an essence called Reaping Flames against my pet. And that essence, if you kill a pet with it, you do get an extra damage. So I always cancel my pet before it dies, around 40%. So I don't give them the chance to get Reaping Flame proc or abuse that ability a lot against my pet. So that's another reason to cancel your pet and summon a new one. It's on 30 seconds cooldown. You want to always abuse that. You want to always use it. You don't want to hold it too long. It's a short cooldown. Make use of that. Other than that, there's a lot of ways and tricks you can do, like gripping. Something I love doing is communicating with my team and making a really good burst and then gripping someone behind the pillar and killing him behind the pillar in arenas. It's the pump special. It's a lovely trick that your opponent not always expect, is popping every cooldown, and then if there's a target far, I would death grip him here behind the pillar. He will be out of line of his healer and he will not be able to get healed. So with that death grip, I usually always combine my stun as well, or a pet root or a pet stun, and try to stun that target that I grip behind the pillar, and then he's stunned behind the pillar and his healer will not be able to heal him if his healer was in the open on the other side or whatever. But that's very important trick and something I abuse grip with. Other than that, when it comes to tricks, I think that's the most important ones. Rotation we talked about, tricks we talked about, gameplay and dot uptime, chains uptime. Chains and dot should be always up on the target unless he's like 10% and you want to finish him. Then skip on it and kill him. But other than that, it should be always up. And yeah, that's when that's about tricks, rotation, gameplay covered, or should be covered with this section. Now I'm going to talk a bit about my macros, my add-ons, and my talents. I'm pretty basic when it comes to like macros and add-ons and like interface. Like I love standard stuff. I love like stuff that gives me more awareness and very clear, not so complicated, and they still deliver good performance. So I always keep my interface clean, standard. I don't get those like interface add-ons It's not a bad thing. If you prefer it, use it. But I like the standard interface and think everyone understands it. It makes my awareness better, I feel like. I play on a bigger UI scale, slightly bigger than normal people. Like that. Or like that. So yeah, this is up to you if you want to make it big or make it small, but that's the way I roll with it. Interface is pretty basic. Keybinds is very much your preference. I don't think you should have the same keybinds as me or as any other player. I think you should roll with something that's comfortable for you and makes you feel like you're smooth with your gameplay. Make you feel like you're just performing well and delivering a good gameplay and a smooth one. But you can see my key bindings regardless. So if you like them or you want to try some of them, you can see them over my abilities. My macros, I have pretty basic macros, like nothing too complicated, just a few. Asphyxiate on target and focus, you can see it here. Kick on target and focus, you can see it here. Dark Simulacrum on target and focus, you can see it here. Death Grip on target and focus, also you can see the description of it here. This is my pet leap kick macro. 1 click leap, 2 clicks leap and stun. Chains of Ice on target and focus. Unholy Frenzy, Blood Fury combined together, or Crucial and Unholy Frenzy. It's important too. Now this is my pet cancel macro. Few macros I also use is taunt macro to taunt the pets out of traps, or like cancel freedom / hunter protection macro. Those are also important. What else? That's everything for macros. We covered macros, we covered add-ons, we covered keybinds. Add-ons actually we didn't cover yet. Add-ons, I'll show you my add-ons one by one. Big debuffs is important. It shows the debuff or the icon of the stun I'm using on the target, like that. It shows my asphyxiate. It's a cool one to see the important ability that's being used on that target and not overlap it with something else or do something else with it. It's pretty important. Other than that, I run details to show and analyze games, like my arena games, to analyze the damage of my opponents or myself or the healers, the healing they do and their spells, and see how they are abusing and using, which talents they're using or which trinkets or which abilities, and how they're abusing it or how they're using it, or essences or corruption gear. But that helps with that. Omni Bar is really important, and Gladius EX. Those two are essential for me. Omni Bar shows the abilities of the enemies being used on your screen, and Omni Bar shows the enemy's abilities, and Gladius EX shows like the Gladius EX shows the bars and frames of the enemies you're facing in that arena. So Gladius EX is just a different version of Gladius. You can use Gladius if you like. Omni Bar is essential, Details is essential, and Big Debuffs is pretty good. But I wouldn't say it's very essential. But yeah, Deadly Boss Mode, you know what it is. It's for PvE. The rest of the add-ons I honestly don't really care about and use, but there it is. You can see it all here. Like Omni CC, Informant, or Enchantrix. I don't really use them that much. I don't care about them that much. But there you have it here. And that's for add-ons, boys. Traits, talents, essences, stats, corruption gear, cloak coming up now. So I'm gonna start with the traits and gear. This is my gear. This is my gear. Typically the traits I run with is always Magus, Fist or Might. Magus of the Dead is a really important one. It does summon an extra pet that does damage and slow the target. It adds up. It's pretty good. You should always have it. This is the most important one for DK, or Unholy DK specifically. It's called Magus of the Dead. You gotta find that one out on your pieces and try get it. The second one is Fistamite. It also gives you strength. It stacks up. It's important. It's good. You should have that one on every piece if you can. If you can't, try to have Heart of Darkness as a replacement, or I mean, Heart of Darkness, Fistamite, Magus is the best. Magus, Fistamite come in on the top. The other one is right after. Try to have those if you can. They are the most important ones. The rest are kind of bad, so whatever else you can get, use it for now until you can get those. The third tier and the fourth tier, I always try to run one runic barrier for a better and bigger anti-magic shield. One runic barrier in the defense. Overwhelming power is really good if you can get it. I try to run one Marsh of the Demand for the Death Advance reduction. And the rest are really like not as good, but this is what I get from my pieces, so I use whatever I get after Overwhelming and after this runic barrier. Here I'm using Gut Reaper because it's better than the other ones, Hit My Call or Ablative, and here I'm using Elemental Viral, which is pretty good in my opinion compared to the Mastery one or this one. But yeah, the most important ones are Magus and Fistamite. Short answer to that one. Essences. This is very like very important topic, and there's a lot of different usages for those abilities for DK. But this would be my standard build. My standard build would be always Breath Major, Necrotic or Conflict and Strife. Sorry, Conflict and Strife Minor, Condensed of Life Force Minor, Memory Minor. This is my best combination that I would run 80% of my games with, usually 70% of my games with. Now, some changes could happen. The most common one is Conflict and Strife main instead of you are in combat. Oh, my pet was in combat. But yeah, the most important one or the most common one that I would change is Conflict and Strife main and Breath Minor. This would be to get Necrotic Strike without having to get a talent for Necrotic Strike. So if I'm gonna be saving a talent and going for a zone, anti-magic zone for a matchup or my healer or myself, in any scenario, I would always try to compensate and get Necrotic Strike from the Conflict and Strife here. Now against rogues in twos, I always use Conflict and Strife. It's really important to live as well. It helps you out with surviving against the rogues or windwalkers or stuff that would kill you in stuns a lot. So this is the second build of Essence I would go for. Now the third one would be Vision of Perfection Major. Breath. I'll drop Conflict and Strife out. I'll keep Memory, I'll keep Condensed, I'll keep Breath, and I'll go Vision of Perfection Major. This build I don't really use. It's a very common one with Magus of the Dead, because Vision makes your Magus proc more and makes your Apocalypse shorter cooldown, makes your it's basically a big combination with the Magus traits, or a very good combination with the Magus traits, because you simply will be able to summon more zombies because your Apocalypse is shorter cooldowns, so it all adds up and synergize very good. I don't play that too much. I do play it sometimes, very rarely though, in some matchups, mostly versus DKs. In mirrors, I do Vision, but I don't play it too much actually. So you can play it, but you don't have to. It's something I just like doing. in some matchups, but rarely do. I rarely play this spec or this essence, but I do sometimes still. This would be my main essences again. Honestly, the rest I really never touch. Like focusing IRS could be a good miner. Flame could be a good miner if you don't have the good essences yet. Crucible of Flames or Essence could be a fine miner, but not the best. Crucible main could be good if you don't have Breath yet. Vision miner could be fine instead of like Memory, but it's also preference. Focusing miner is fine, but it's not the best. You know, it's fine if you don't have those three, in my opinion. To take over after that, or right after that, be like the best. That's for essences, boys. We're gonna go over the talents real quick. The talents. I'm gonna go tier by tier and talk about them and talk about why I did change a little bit with those like in this patch compared to last patch. The last patch I always played Infected Airborne Fever because always serve damage was pretty good and Bursting Swords didn't really give much value. Always serve was still fine last patch, but I still decided to go Infected Claws because I valued the stacks I get from Fisting Wounds from it a lot. But right now, this patch, I flipped my talents or swapped to always serve every game, Bursting Swords every game. I never changed Airborne Fever, I never changed Infected Clouds. Actually, Infected Clouds, I do change one specific scenario. It's very specific, very situational. It's against stuff that's try to abuse, or against people or players or classes that try to abuse getting breath proc on my pets or from my pets. So I go Infected Clouds to minimize that. Or the other scenario would be, that's very situational, is in a 2v2 matchup versus a healer that always ranges me, always stays so far away from me, and it's so hard for me to connect on them. If it's so hard for me to connect on them, I sometimes decide to play Infected Clouds. It's mostly versus Resto Druids and Resto Druid DH, Resto Druid Rogue, Resto Druid anything. Resto Druid that always stays so far away from me. I might play Infected Clouds and set my pet on him all game and try to cleave him with my pet and diseases. Now my pet will actually deliver Fisting Wounds on that target and it stacks up. So that's another trick I do, is stacking up those wounds. And then when they are 6, I make a swap on that target. So my pet is getting the wounds on its own. I'm so far from that target. When my pet has 6 wounds, I don't really need to get there and get the 6 wounds. It's already there. It's ready for a swap. That's very situational. It's something I do quite a lot, but I don't highlight it as much. Or you don't really see it. I don't say it a lot, but there you go, boys. It's something you do a lot, or worth doing against healers that stays away from you. Now you have 6 stacks. Now I want to make a swap. I straight go on this guy, pop every cooldown, and I'm ready to summon my zombies and go super ham on this guy. That's a scenario where I would use Infected Claws, but I still go always serve because it's just like a lot of damage to miss out on right now. And this is not really something you want to abuse a lot. That's for always serve and Infected Claws. Clawing Shadows is something I was willing to try against mages maybe, but I don't think it's that good. I don't think you can give it a try if you want, but it's something I don't play right now. Unholy Blight could be good in 3s, but not worth for now, for sure. This tier you never change, you always want to use stun. You can change it in some scenarios, like pretty rare, but I would say just stick to your stun. Other scenarios would be if you have too many stuns in your comp or setup, you can drop the stun, go death grip, and you know, to get death grip range, grip people that try to stay super far from you, even more far. Yeah, this is a scenario where I would play grip range. Soul Reaper is fine, but Harbinger is okay if you don't like Soul Reaper. It's not a big ability, but I like it with my burst when I drop runes. So I line it up with my burst a little bit. It will give a little bit of extra burst and flexibility with or runes to like chains, help my healer with something, or just do anything that requires runes when I'm out of runes. So I keep it and do it for that. Pestilence or Pestilent is fine. Harbinger is fine, but I don't think they are as good. They are not bursty. They are more like long term or like very roddy abilities. You just like get them to help you a little bit throughout the match, but it's not like too concentrated like Soul Reaper. But they're all fine. If you prefer one over my choice, you can use it. I don't think they are too bad, but for now I'm sticking with Soul Reaper. Spell Eater. Now this tier is a bit tricky. Spell Eater is always good against casters because it makes your anti-magic shield is stronger, longer, and bigger. Wrathwalk is something you never use against casters, or because against casters you want to always use the Spell Eater to make your anti-magic shield more powerful. So Wrathwalk is something used against like melees, such as Warrior, such as Hunter, Warrior, Windwalker, Demon Hunter, etc, etc, etc. You go Wrathwalk because you don't need the long anti-magic shield that doesn't do anything against physical classes or classes that does physical damage. You want to always go with the Wrathwalk. So it also helps you to move faster and chase someone, or it helps you to get out of roots. I play this talent quite a lot against hunters because they have undispellable root, or against druids that root you behind the pillar. It's good sometimes, but overall, if you're worried about dying and you're playing against casters, you roll Spell Eater because it's the best choice here. For casters, this is the best choice for overall / melees. For sure, you always want to play this against melees. You should not play Spell Eater versus melees ever, if it's double melee team. But you can always play it if there's one caster against you. This tier is usually either Pestilence or Epidemic. Those are the two things I play with. Epidemic is something I play versus healers that I want to stop drinks against. Pestilence is when I'm not worried about drinks at all and I want to maximize the AoE burst / potential / damage. I use always like Death and Decay when I have stacks on 2 targets, and then Death and Decay and Pestilence combined makes all the targets take Necrotic Strike from you. So not just one target, everyone takes Necro. It spreads around in the circle of Death and Decay combined with Pestilence. And it also gives you Festering Wounds stacks, so it's always good to throw like Death and Decay if you're playing Pestilence. But sometimes I throw it anyway just for the extra damage. It doesn't do much, but it's a filler when you're getting kited, or when you're having a downtime, and you can't do much. You just throw it on the way, or you stop drinks with it. It's pretty good in my opinion. You should play it as long as there's no healer to stop drinks, or that you need Epidemic to stop drinks against. You should play it. Now Epidemic is always good to stop drinks with because your dot is up for 20 seconds when you're playing Bursting Swords. With Epidemic combined, no matter how far you're from that healer, if he goes behind the pillar, you have the dot on him. You can Epidemic from here and he will not be able to drink because of that Epidemic. But you want to make sure that you use that Epidemic every time he tries to drink to trigger the combat on him, or to trigger that he will stop drinking. Other than that, you don't really need to play Epidemic. You never use it to do damage with. Make sure to not use it. It's not worth using to do damage with. You want to always use it to stop the drinks from healers that are far, or to stop the drinks even like from close healer, but they're lining you behind the pillar or something. But it's usually being used for that. I first used it in a tournament, and then people thought I was bugging the game, but it turned out to be like a thing, and everyone like started playing it, and it's just like the best play when it comes to like stopping drinks in tournaments settings or ladder 2v2, 3v3. It helps in many scenarios. Now for that tier we're good. Pestilence or Epidemic if you want to stop drinks. Unholy Frenzy is always the play in the last one. You never go Gargoyle. Gargoyle does almost no damage at all. It's pretty waste of a talent. It's pretty useless. It doesn't do anything. I tried it. It did 15k or 20k in one game. It didn't really do like anything that's worth taking. Unholy Frenzy is so good. You want to always stick to it. It makes your haste better. It applies fisting wounds. And yeah. Army of the Dead or of the Demand, something you never play. It's not worth for sure. I think we covered everything except Death Pact. Death Pact is something you never use, honestly, unless... Actually, I never play Death Pact, never. It's pretty bad. It makes you die eventually. It just delays your death in a way, because it makes you like take healing reduction or healing absorb every time you use it. So it's basically just delaying your death. This is why I decided to go Spell Eater or Wrathfolk to kite better, or to avoid magic damage. Death Pact is not something I recommend. You should not play it most of the times. And yeah, I think that's everything when it comes to like talents. And that's covered. Necrotic Aura or PvP talents. I'm gonna talk about them one by one and make sure that I give my insight about like each individually, and then you guys tell me if we have everything answered. Life and Death is something I don't play anymore. I tried it multiple games. It doesn't heal you much, and it doesn't really like make your damage much better, so it's pretty pointless to play this one. I never play it. Dark Simulacrum is something I play quite a lot. It's very important. You use it to steal abilities from casters, from mages, from locks. You use this. If you use this while they are casting a polymorph, you can steal it from them. Then you have that polymorph for your team, and then you can polymorph a healer, become basically a mage, or steal one mage ability. If you time it well and steal a good ability, you can always abuse it in your favor. But yeah, I'm gonna just adjust my cam so you guys can read the abilities and see them better. This Dark Simulacrum, it basically just gives you that ability from the target you're trying to steal. You should abuse it against casters mostly. I play, or the situations I play Dark Simulacrum is in twos. I never play it except against Holy Priest, Lock, and Holy Priest teams in general. I feel like you need that steal ability to like change how the game goes a little bit. Like steal a greater heal from a priest, or steal a pyroblast from a mage, or steal like a fear from a lock. It's very powerful, very impactful on the matchup. This is why I play it. But other than that, in twos I don't play it much. In threes I play it versus rogue mages sometimes, versus lock mages sometimes, casters in general. You want to use it against stuff that you know, actually you could have impact against stealing their abilities. Other than that, reanimation is called reanimation or zombies. People call it zombies. It's called zombies mostly. I don't play it much, but a lot of people like playing zombies and summon zombies on the target, and those zombies will do damage and will stun the target. You can play it in matchups that you can kite a lot, that you don't want to be in melee range a lot. It's kind of a troll ability. It does the job sometimes on low rating. I don't think it's so powerful on high rating, because zombies have really low HP and they're very easily killed. But in 2v2 against locks, it's very common. Against arcane mage, maybe against like fire mage, against stuff that you want to kite and hug the pillar against and just abuse it. Those zombies will just be summoned from far and running to the target and stunning him, doing damage. You want to watch the DR, the diminution return, because if you do it too often, the target will become immune to stun. So every 20 seconds that resets and you can abuse that stun again. That's when it comes to like the reanimation. Cadaverius, I never play it. It's like just bad. I've tried it multiple times. Yeah, they do percentage damage. It's 10% of the target's health. It's pretty good damage, but still very easily countered. So I don't play it much, but it's a good troll or good fun talent if you want to have some fun on lower rating. It does the job until like 2.3, 2.4 rating. But after that rating, I feel like it starts backfiring a little bit against good players and against very geared teams or teams that has a lot of gear and good comps. Necrotic Aura is something I run with a lot. It's probably the most used talent for me with Anti-Magic Zone and Raise Abomination. Those are the three I use the most. I sometimes change to Breath Measure essences, then I lose my Necro. I want to get it from the Zone or from the Necrotic Aura. Necrotic Aura basically just increases all the magic damage. It's pretty basic, but it's pretty good at the same time. Passive ability, it does just increase the magic damage you do by 8%, and it's pretty recommended. Pretty recommended. If you're gonna play Zone, just drop it. Play Zone, play Necrotic Strike, and play Breath Measure. If you wanna play both Necrotic Aura and Zone, then you have to get Necrotic from Conflict and Strife. Like that. So those are the combination of talents that I would use. So number 1, Anti-Magic Zone, Necrotic Aura, Raise Abomination with Necrotic Strike from Conflict. Number 2, I remove Conflict, go for Breath Measure, Necrotic Strike, Zone, or Necrotic Strike, Necrotic Aura. Raise A-Bomb is always there, unless you want to play something like Leechborn. You can drop A-Bomb, or you can drop Necrotic Aura. Basically, Necrotic Strike should always be there. The rest, you can adjust on your playstyle, or how do you want the matchup to go, or how do you think the matchup will go, or how do you think the game will go you're playing, or the comp you're playing against, how will they play it. Try to abuse the other talents, but never change Necrotic Strike. And always make sure to have Zone against casters you struggle against, like Locks in 2s, like Rogue Mage in 3s. Leechborn is good against Rogue Mage, against Elemental Shamans for their lasso, against a bunch of stuff, but I don't play it much. I typically run like that. Decomposing Aura, I never run with it. Kinda bad. But Necrotic is percentage based ability, so I keep it without decomposing. It fucks up the percentage of the target. It doesn't give you much. Necrotic or Necromancer, yeah, Necromancer Bargain is quiet. It's frequently used, but not much. I don't use it much. I think it's good in matchups like DK Druid versus DK Druid, like a mirror, DK Druid mirror. I would use maybe Necromancer Bargain there. Mistweaver DK versus Mistweaver DK. I would use it. Matchups that's our pure PvE. Typically DK mirrors are pure PvE matchups, unless you clutch kicks and do plays. So matchups that's pure PvE and you want to win the mana war, I might go Necromancer Bargain with like Vision Major and try to do like PvE trinkets, like go full PvE build and try to like pump as much damage as I can. That would be my full PvE build for like mirrors matchups, but I don't use it much. I rarely still use it. That's for Necromancer Bargain. Now Transfusion and Leechborn are pretty good in 2s and 3s. They are both defensive abilities. Both of them, Leechborn and Transfusion. Again, Leechborn is a 1 minute cooldown, makes your Icebound 1 minute instead of 3. Transfusion is also pretty good to live with. It heals you. When you press it, it makes your Death Strike cheaper as well. I don't play it much because I like bigger Death Strikes. Like if you spam Death Strikes, it doesn't heal as much and it consumes like a lot of globals. I like to play without transfusion, but in 3s transfusion is good before dampening. In 2s it's not as good, so it's not really recommended. In 2s, in 3s it can be good. It's up to you. I play it sometimes, but not always. My typical build would always be like this. Again, but the other stuff are used sometimes as well. I think we ran over all of them. All the PvP talents. And we end up with our main spec again. Just to not be confusing or confused. This is our main spec again. I run most of my games with. And I'm gonna move on the next topic. We're gonna move on the next topic. So the next topic will be, we went over talents, traits, PvP talents, essences. The next topic is gonna be stats and corruption pieces and cloak. So corruption pieces, there's 3 or 4 corruption pieces that are really good for DK right now. This information might be changed because every like period of the patch, like certain corruption are better than others. If you don't know what corruption is, it's a new effect this patch that being applied to certain pieces of your gear, and it can be different abilities, such as like mastery proc, such as infinite stars that does damage, such as the gush or gushing wounds, or this one, ooze blood. It makes your target bleed. Basically, it's a bleed on the target that does damage over time. It procs frequently, procs throughout the match. Stars also like procs throughout the match and does like some stars damage / magic damage on your target. Mastery proc, you just proc some extra mastery for yourself. Those are the ones I'm running right now. I'm running gushing, mastery, stars rank 1, gushing again, or gushing. 37 in total is my corruption. You want to remain below 40% corruption no matter what in arena. So if you're arena player and you want to have success, you want to always remain over 40. Below 40. You want to always remain below 40. I have 37, which is the most optimal, to be very close to 40 but still lower. So if you can get like 39, if you can get a good combination of corruption with being 39 and lower, it's the best for arena. My combination right now is 37. I have a new combination for next week. Will be a new combination. I will have 39. Right now I have 42, but I'm waiting until next week. Next week my corruption will be better. I will upgrade my cloak resistance, then I will have a new combination of corruption gear, which is awesome. So you want to always make sure you're farming your cloak up to rank 15, and then farming the corruption. Every week you can get 3 more corruption resistance after getting that rank 15 with doing visions with 5 masks. You get a little item that makes your cloak slightly better. You want to keep farming that item and keep making your cloak stronger and stronger and stronger every week. That's after getting the rank 15. But yeah, for now I'm still running this build, and it's 37 corruption. Now you can be below 30. It's also good. You can be below 20. It's not recommended, but you can. If you don't want to go over 40 and it's the only choice you have to roll like that. It's very situational for what items you get from the weekly, how lucky you are with the items, or what procs you get mostly on your items. You can't really buy them from a vendor right now, which sucks. It's a bit sad for some players because sometimes you get unlucky, but that's how the game is right now. We just gotta roll with the flow. You can always buy some items from auction house or do raid and hope for like a proc, but you can't really have too much control over those items. You need to be lucky at some point, or if you're not lucky, you can compensate a little bit and buy items from the auction house if you can. Otherwise, you gotta roll with bad corruption, and that's not gonna be so good for you. Your character will be a bit weaker, but that's the game again. My best recommendations or best corruption you can roll with for DK is, the first one is Gushing Wounds. Number one, Gushing Wounds, or Ooze Blood, blood. It's called Gushing Wounds typically. It doesn't say Gushing Wounds on this item, but it says your damaging abilities and spells have a chance to cause your target to ooze blood, dealing damage over 7 seconds. So this is the best one for DK, the best corruption. The second one would be base percentage Versa. Second best. And items that comes with 6% base versatility or 12% base versatility. Those are this is my second option or second choice if you don't have the gush. The third would be haste. Base percentage 6, 12. Fourth would be tentacles, panties, slash whatever you want to call it. Infinite. This is like probably the best 4 in my opinion. If you can have a combination of like gushing and ooze blood, this would be the best. Haste and tentacles comes after, only if it's the only option, only if it's the only choice you have. Go for that, but it's not so recommended. The rest, everything else like infinite stars, the one I'm using here, or that mastery proc, not so good. But again, it's the only choices I have right now that goes with the combination of me maintaining a good corruption number. This is what I'm using to fill up the numbers, but the rest are good. And then I have other items that I can choose from, but yeah, again, you want to run for your best combination while maintaining a good corruption number and while trying to go for the good ones. The first 4 I was talking about here. That's for corruption, guys. Or what I think the best corruption for Unholy DK is. For stats, my best stats, or the best stats you should go for, is versatility and haste. So I have 2 builds here. One build is very high versatility and very high haste, but with less corruption on some pieces. I'm still running like Gushing Wounds, I'm still running some other corruptions, but I'm still maintaining high verse and high haste. This is my favorite build. The second build is a bit more damage, high haste, a bit lower verse, but overall it's way better corruption, way better damage, slightly more squishy. But those are the 2 builds I run. Now the stats you want to focus on is still Versa and Haste. If you didn't know it yet, Versa, Ability, Haste, Mastery, Crit. This is the way I rate the stats. This is the way I've been rolling with the stats. Avoidance and speed is not important, but versatility number 1, Haste number 2, Mastery number 3, Crit number 4. But before all of that, corruption and corruption and corruption. Corruption is the best. Make sure to have good corruption and farm the good ones. You can get corruption from weekly, from auction house, from 5 mask visions. You can get it in many different ways, but you want to try to farm it as much as you can and farm the good ones. Other than that, what else? We talked about the cloak, we talked about the corruption pieces. Let me see what we are talking about next. Stats, essences, talents, traits, macros, add-ons, keybinds, tricks, rotation, gameplay. We talked about all of that already. If you missed out on anything, you will still find it on YouTube, guys. I'm gonna talk about some matchups and some healers and some comps, what is good for DK and what is not as good, and what do I prefer in terms of like comps, in terms of like races to play, in terms of like matchups, I will talk about some matchup strategies. But yeah, we're gonna also talk about that. Right now, the best healer for DK in 2v2 arena is Mistweaver. Mistweaver is the best healer. I prefer it the most. It's solid. It survives with the pretty safe playstyle. It helps you offensively a little bit with the incap, with the stun. Mistweaver is my #1 healers. Mistweaver is my #1 for sure. Mistweaver comes first. It's solid and less risky than any other healer. Synergizes with DK pretty well. And yeah, my favorite for sure. Second healer would be Resto Shaman. If it's a good Shaman with good gear, it can shine. He can shine. He can help you offensively. He can help you to survive defensively. He can purge a lot. He can shear. He can maintain good mana. But yeah, the downside for Shaman is rogues and windwalkers. They kind of counter Shaman pretty bad. So those will be very hard matchups with Shamans. But overall, I still like Shaman a lot. I'll put it on my #2. I roll with the Shaman when I don't have a Mistweaver. If I don't have a Mistweaver or a Resto Shaman to play with, I typically look to play with a Holy Pally with good gear. Now, Holy Pally is very tricky because... and offensive playstyle. Holy Pally is very tricky because it's the third choice of mine when it comes to like the healers in 2s for DK, but it gets countered a lot. So rogues are very good. Paladin killer, rogue priest is very hard matchup. DH is very hard matchup with the Pally. There's a lot of classes that hard counter Pally, and it's really hard. So you have more counters with the Holy Pally for sure, but it's still a good healer. I still like it. I still put it as my 3rd best healer. But it's a must that the Pally has good gear and offensive playstyle. A defensive playstyle Paladin will just go out of mana. You will not win games with. He needs to have good corruption pieces to help you with the damage, like gushing wounds, like tentacles, like whatever corruption pieces that does damage. He needs to have judgment traits that to do extra damage with the judgment. He needs to be aggressively or very aggressive with the playstyle overall. And this is what you need if you want to play with a Pally. You can't play with a Pally that sits back and try to dampen, try to play defensively. You will lose on mana, or you will lose by not killing anyone. You will not have enough to finish on your own. You need some help from the Pally, just like you need help from an offensive Shaman. But with the Pally, it's more of a must because Shaman and Mistweaver, they can dampen the games. They can drag the games more than Holy Pally. Holy Pally will run out of cooldowns, run out of mana faster. This is why you want to play more aggressive with the Pally. Now, Druid was really good. It's my 4th choice, Resto Druid. Resto Druid was really good last patches, but right now I feel like it's not synergizing with DK pretty well. It still can be a thing, but I'll still put it as my 4th healer for DK and 2s. I think I still win games. I still played into like 2-8 with the Druid, 2-8, 2-9 MMR, but my 3k rating in 2v2 or rank 2 world, I got it with a Mistweaver and a Resto Shaman and a Holy Paladin mostly. I never played with Druid. Throughout the ratings, I pushed on 2.8, 2.9, 2.7, 3k. I played with Holy Paladin, Resto Shaman, and the Mistweaver. I didn't play with Druid at all, almost. But Druid is still not horrible. It's like still okay, but nothing special. This is what I'm saying here. 5th is Disc Priest. I think this can be good with good gear. Disc/Holy Priest. But it's still my last choice for healers and 2s. Like, it's fine. Yes, DK work with every healer. That's the cool thing about DK in 2v2. But yes, those are my rankings. I prefer Disc and Holy probably last. Like, I always ask my Mistweavers in my friend list, then my Resto Shamans, then my Holy Paladins. Then if I don't have any of those, I might ask a Druid or a Disc Priest. But that's how I roll when I look for a healer in 2v2 or to push rating with seriously. Those are my rankings for DK, guys. The healers might be better, so for other classes, so for a lock would be like best for a lock, Resto Druid would be the best healer. For a rogue, this priest would be the best healer. You know, for other classes, other healers are better, but for DK specifically, I'm not gonna go over all the other classes, but for DK specifically, Mistweaver is the best. For other classes, the best healer may be different, but we're trying to focus on DK here. We're still giving a bit of information about other stuff in PvP in general, but I'm still focused on that Unholy / that DK, that guide that you guys always wanted, and that would help you guys out. That's when it comes to, we covered Mistweavers, we covered, I mean, healer rankings. 3v3 comps. So the best 3v3 comps, in my opinion, for DK and Holy would be TSG / DHDK X. TSG is known as, or it's been known as TSG. It's a warrior. DK X. X is the healer. Then DH, DKX. Those are my favorite two. Now, you can play some other stuff. Number 1. Number 2. You can play some other stuff. Like, number 3 would be maybe Hunter DK. Or Windwalker DKX. Hunter DKX. Or fun stuff like Elemental DKX. Or like Rogue DKX. There's a lot of comps for DK, but those are DK Red. Anything basically with a DK, I would put at rank 3 or rank 4. DK Red would probably be rank 4, but it's good versus melees. DK is good with melees. You can play Shadow Priest DK and just dampen people, try to play defensive, but those are low rated comps. You can't play them on very, like, the end of the ladder rating, or like the end of the rankings, or the highest rankings on the game. So I would recommend always to play like the good ones, the good comps. TSG, DHDK for Unholy. Windwalker DK is really good for Unholy, but it's better for Frost, I would say. Frost is really bursty. Windwalker DK / TSG / Windwalker DK / DHDK. Those two are top for Frost in my opinion. Number 1 for Frost. I'll just throw it out there for Frost DKs. But yeah, for TSG you want the warrior to always play arms, not fury. Just make sure he's arms. Obviously the Demon Hunter should be Havoc Demon Hunter, but that's about it. For the comps, there's not too much comps for DKs and 3s. It's basically just melee cleaves. TSG and Windwalker DK and DHDK are the top 3. That's about it. Now I'm gonna talk about the biggest counters in 2s, guys. I'm gonna go over some matchups and how I would play the matchups. It's important to know those strategies, because, or how do I play against certain matchups. If you want to reach high rating in 2s, if you want to achieve something, you want to implement those strategies into your gameplay and your game's plan to win those games. The 4 hardest matchups for me this patch is Warlocks are very hard to beat. Destruction Locks. Then the second one would be Rogue, Demon Hunter, and then the 4th one would be Rogue, Demon Hunter, Windwalker, and the Lock. Yeah, I'm gonna go over one by one. DK versus Lock. So DK versus Lock is a bit tricky. Hard 2v2 matchups / counters. Number 1. The hardest would be probably Rogue Priest. It's a good Rogue Priest is always a struggle, and a good Lock / Lock Resto Druid, and a good I think Windwalker X is hard, but not as hard as those. But DHX is hard. Those are the hardest 3 in my opinion. I'm gonna still go over the Windwalker and the Feral, but I think those 3 are harder, or is supposed to be harder for you as DK. in my opinion. So Rogue Priest. This matchup is interesting. It really depends what healer you play against, what healer you play with, and what healer you play against. So if the Rogue has a Disc Priest, and you have a Shaman, my strategy would be different than the Rogue having a Pally and I have a Mistweaver. Like, it's very different approach to the match and the strategy of like how I would play the match, depending on what healers I have and what healers the Rogue has on his side. But I'm gonna go over the most common one, which is DK Mistweaver versus Rogue Priest. So if you see me playing different strategy, it's probably because I am playing with a different healer or I'm facing a different healer with the Rogue, like not the Disc Priest. But Mistweaver DK, I typically always start the matchup on the Priest, try to build up some dampening, cleave both all the game, keep the Rogue slowed all the game, make sure we are not dead, try to get drinks as much as we can, and then eventually when dampening starts to ramp up, I can kill something. You're not supposed to kill a Priest or Rogue early. They don't die anymore, they are immortal until there's dampening. It's impossible to finish a Rogue Priest early unless they fuck up something with their cooldowns in a bad way, and you can abuse that to kill them. But if they are good geared team that plays Rogue Priest, or they are good players, or both of that, you have to drag the match to damp to be able to kill something as DK. Even with the playing perfect, you will not kill them so quick. Drag the match to damp, try to maintain a good mana. Eventually, focus on one of them. Don't split too much damage in damp. You want to really focus on one to finish the match. It's really hard to finish a good Rogue Priest. But in damp, you want to finish the Rogue if you can. It's better than finishing the Priest in my opinion. Try line the Priest while you're killing the Rogue in dampening. Yeah, if you don't want to kill the Rogue, you really want to like pop cooldowns on the Priest out of the blue and gap him quick with AMS covering you up. You want to line up Zone for Vendetta always. You want to not waste defensive cooldowns at all. Use them very proper when your healer goes to drink, when Vendetta is being used, when there's a big go and you're gonna die out of the go. But try to not let go of your zone without the Rogue using Vendetta. That's very important. And try to always peel for your healer, stun your healer until dampening is there, because before damp you're not supposed to kill, remember that. Try to avoid as much damage as you can, land as much drinks as you can until damp, and in damp you can kill either of them. That's for Rogue Priest, boys. Rogue Priest versus DK Mistweaver. The second one, DK versus Locke. Also very hard one, especially if the Locke has a Druid. Druid does damage with the Locke throughout the game, makes it very hard to deal with when they do so much damage. You and your healer are both dying all game. What you want to do is make sure to interrupt the Locke on Chaos Bolts as much as you can. One thing I do in that match, I always grip the Locke close to the pillar and try to line around the pillar when I don't have kicks, and try to get some hits while I'm lining him, and line every cast he does, or just simply sit behind the pillar until there's some dampening. I always play zone versus Locks, just like versus Rogues. I zone big cooldowns like Inferno, like Dark Soul. Those cooldowns needs to be zoned or you're gonna get one-shotted. Chaos Bolt right now does 200k damage. It's crazy OP. Locke is crazy OP. Rogue is crazy OP. You want to use defensively. You want to use your cooldowns defensively in a pretty good way to be able to live those cooldowns. That's for sure. So yeah, make sure to do that. I grip block around the pillar, try to line cast. I kick him on big important stuff. I stun him on big important stuff. I try to drag the game to dampening, and then in dampening I can kill. Now sometimes, or if the Locke has Epidemic, or if the Locke has a Druid, sorry, you play Epidemic to stop the drinks. When the Druid is far and you have a dot on him, remember we talked about this earlier in the guide, you always can dot him up and stop the drink from far. So I'm hitting the Locke here in this matchup against the Locke Druid, and the Druid goes to drink there with my pet. What I try to do is always Epidemic to stop the Druid from drinking. So I have a dot for 13 seconds. That means for 13 seconds I can stop the drink. I have the dot for 7 seconds. I can stop the drink from here for 6 while I'm hitting the lock. Now I'm still hitting the lock and I stopped the drink one last time. Now my dot faded on the druid there. This means I need to go and apply a new dot on the druid to stop the drink again, and then go back and kill in the lock and kick the lock. Don't let him cast on me while I'm doing that. Stun the lock. Don't let him cast on me while I'm doing that. Then I wanna try to pet kick the lock while I'm doing that. And pump the lock eventually. You wanna really pump, guys. Pumping is recommended a lot. And yeah. That would be the biggest pump. If you can drag the game to damp and live everything and win the mana game while interrupting the lock throughout the game and eventually killing the lock. You wanna pop every cooldown on the lock eventually. Focus on the lock and kill him. You can't kill the druid unless he's not a good player. Typically, it's always a bait to go druid. They don't die. Sometimes I kill them. 10 to 20% of my games I do kill druids if they are greedy or I see them playing cat form. But mostly you need a really good go, a really calculated go to be able to get a druid down. And the basic strategy would be stay on the lock, try to outdamp, or or try to stay behind the pillar and spam interrupting the lock all game while you're lining around the pillar. Or you can just like try to start the game behind the pillar and not engage the fight. That's the third strategy you could do. Just stay behind the pillar as much as you can, make the lock come to you. When the lock comes, you have to like slow him down and keep running around the pillar a bit. The more time you buy, the better for you. You will have dampening. Dampening means you can kill the lock. And it goes the same in the Demon Hunter matchup. Dampening is essential to win the match. Again, the same versus rogues. Dampening is essential. You can't kill before dampening stacks up. It will be very hard, at least. It will be very hard to kill before dampening stacks up. The only way you kill them is either them fucking up something defensively or getting lucky somehow, but you're not supposed to kill a good team, good geared Demon Hunter, Windwalker, Lock, Rogue before dampening. It's typically dampening matches. You want to drag the game to damp with maintaining good cooldowns defensively and mana, rotating CDs throughout the games, and trading zone for Dark Soul from the Lock or Vendetta from the Rogue, as I said. But this is for the Lock matchup. The Demon Hunter matchup is very similar to the Windwalker matchup. Both of those matchups I kite a lot. I don't let the Windwalker or the Demon Hunter play the game a lot. I try to kite as much as I can, maintaining 100% uptime on chains while running around the pillar. They are very bursty. They can kill you easily. You cannot kill them. That's the thing. In the start of the game, you cannot kill a Windwalker or a Demon Hunter. It's a big counter. So you want to abuse the utility you have in the mobility and the slow. You want to change them all game while cleaving them. Every time I have all CDs ready, I go in for the CDs. I pump this guy and go out and kite again. This is my strategy of the match most of the times. I play very defensive until there's dampening, because again, all the 4 hard matchups, you need dampening. And you want to avoid as much damage as you can, because you're so squishy as DK now, you will flop and you will not be able to kill them as fast as they kill you. They are supposed to win you, so you want to go and play smart and try to abuse the little mobility slash utility slash slow you have. Abuse all of that to overcome their damage or how they live, etc, etc, etc. Other than that, so basically against DH and Windwalker, you just want to kite all game until there's damp. Every time you have all CDs, you can pop them on the Demon Hunter or his healer and kill the Demon Hunter or his healer. And then on Windwalker, you do the same. You trade the MS for Karma. Damp, 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 boys. As much as you can. What damp are you looking for as a window? As a window for damp, honestly, 5 minutes into the game in 2s you can kill. That's how my games go usually. Around 5, there's always a potential to kill, or it feels like that. So around 5, I can start doing proper goes and try to win games. Before 5, I try to still pop my cooldowns and get some damage out, but I try to minimize the damage I take. Because you will never kill them before 5, let's say. You can sometimes if they are throwing the game or if they are playing bad, but most of the times you can't kill them before 5. So you want to keep playing defensive and avoiding damage. They can kill you, you can't kill them. You want to play the defensive. And until you can actually kill them, then you can go head to head and try to trade cooldowns and kill them eventually. Yeah, that's for those matchups, Windwalker and DH. Double DPS matchups, like anytime you face double DPS as rogue, in 2s as DK, I always try to run both PvP trinkets, Battle Master and Safeguard. Those will help you live. Battle Master will give you health when you use it, will heal you for sure. Safeguard, this is shield. When you drop to below 25%, I always run those two. Pretty good. For double DPS matchups, I always run the zone. So I have zone, I have extra defensive CDs. I always try run maximize my defensive CDs or abilities I could have versus double deeps. And I try to always play the matchup very aggressive. Double deeps is something I don't play defensive, because the more defensive you play, the more they will live. So I try to end the matchup as fast as I can. And that's how I approach the double deeps matchup. I always go super ham and try to kill them before they kill me, and trade defensive cooldowns while doing that. So a rogue mage opener would be always me going in, A-bombing first global, popping every CD, AMSing while doing that, stunning this guy, killing him very quick, and making him to go defensive instead of pumping me, playing offensive with his other DPS. So play the matchups offensively while making sure to trade defensive cooldowns to not die. You don't want to like play offensive and die instantly. So versus Rogue Mage, I always zone, I always icebound and let my healer sit CC while I'm killing them. Then my healer gets out of CC, he trinkets, he heals me, and they are probably dead by then. They will die so quick if you play offensive while trading cooldowns. So that's recommended for double DPS in 2s, or playing versus Rogue Mage in 2s, or playing versus Hunter Rogue in 2s. Double DPS in general. PvP trinkets, the ones I run with, the DPS ones, is always dressed. It does a burst damage with you. It's off global. It's really good. The second one is Vera charged. I swap around with trinkets, not always the same, but those are the two I run with the most, or most of my games with. You can swap them, it's up to you. This is what I run most of the times. Yeah, that's pretty pumpy, guys, pretty pumpy. Those trinkets, if you can get them with the right corruption, with everything. You can always check my armory. You can always check my stream, Cervantes TV on Twitch. My armory is always there. You can check out my YouTube always. And overall, you will always ask me questions, or you'll be able to always ask me questions while I'm streaming or while I'm playing the games, or on Twitter, wherever. Feel free to ask me anything I could help you with. Feel free to ask. I will always be happy to help you guys. Why did you run Ibon Fever? Ibon Fever is kind of bad right now. It's not that good. Not that good. It's nerfed, or Bursting Swords is too good right now. Necrotic Strike is buffed by Bursting Swords. Maybe I didn't mention that out, but Necrotic Strike is buffed by Bursting Swords, so you want to always go Bursting Swords right now. Always. Let me check the other stuff we need to talk about. Necrotic Strike versus Scourge Strike. Always Necrotic Strike. I never run Scourge. I said that a lot. Weaknesses and powers of DK. DK is very squishy right now, very low damage, so you always need dampening to kill in 2s. Power is Chains of Ice and kiting and stuns and a lot of interrupts. This is the power of DK. So abuse it as much as you can. The better you abuse it, the better you will perform as DK. Runic power management. Something we can talk about too. Like every time you have full runic power, you want a death strike. You don't want to go over the 100% unless you're killing someone, and you're gonna lose a lot of momentum. So when you're 100%, you want to you have always two choices to consume your runic power with. It's either Death Strike or Death Coil. I always would Death Strike if I'm below 70-80%. Always. Even if someone is really low. Unless someone is like 10% or 5%, then I might coil for an extra damage. But if I'm very low, and they are very low HP, I would always Death Strike. I use way more Death Strikes than Death Coil, keep that in mind. But when you're full HP, 100% HP, that you can't heal anything, you want to always, obviously Death Coil, because you don't need the healing from Death Strike anymore. So you spam the Death Coils. Something I do a lot, I go for kicks on healers while I'm Death Coiling. But to not fuck up my damage, I always cover the globals. When I go for a kick on that healer here, I always Death Coil on the way, then breath, then kick the healer, Death Coil, and be back. And all the way when I went and came back, I was Death Coiling, so I was not wasting uptime on that target, kinda. I'm still wasting some melee damage and stuff, but I'm covering that window with range damage. And I saved my runic power to cover that window there when I'm going for that kick on that healer, or that stun on that healer, etc, etc, etc. But that's runic power management. Always Death Strike over Death Coil, unless you're 100% HP, always Death Coil, or you're going for a kick or something, always Death Coil. If my runic power is 100%, that's probably because I'm prioritizing the offensive play, and I don't want to use my runic power anymore. Someone is about to die, someone is like 10% HP, I don't want to Death Coil when I can Necrotic Aura or Necrotic Strike, because it does more damage. So I always Necrotic Strike and try to finish them. If they are 5%, then I sacrifice my runic power, going over 100% for a little bit, but I instantly adjust back to spending the runic power when I'm not stressing a kill or stressing a scenario where I would get someone down just because of that extra damage from Necrotic Strike. But yeah, that's about it for runic power management. You want to always have this mentality of trading cooldowns defensively. So if a lock uses Dark Soul, always trade a zone. If a rogue uses Assassination, rogue uses Vendetta, always trade the zone. If you want to climb the 2's ladder, you have to trade cooldowns good versus like those classes. They kill you otherwise. You have to out dampen them somehow, even though you are squishy, so you want to abuse your utility. That's the way for 2's. In 3's, it's kind of similar, but it's also very situational. Overall, if you want to learn PvP or become a better player, you can always come on my live stream on Twitch, Cervantes TV, twitch.tv/Cervantes TV. I'm live almost every day, at least 5 to 6 days a week. I stream a lot of arenas, always high-rated arenas. You can always ask me questions or just watch my gameplay and learn from it, or like implement it into your playstyle. It would help you out for sure. My armory is there. This guide will go on YouTube, so hello YouTube. You guys can also watch it there. And yeah, I think we covered almost everything. We went over the rotation, the gameplay, tricks, add-ons, macros, keybinds, traits, talents, stats, corruption pieces, cloak, corruption cloak, 2v2 comps, 3v3 comps, healers rankings in 2's for DK, healers rankings in 2's for other classes a little bit, position in general in arena versus some matchups or versus some comps, the hardest matchups in 2's, Lock, Windwalker, Rogue, DH, double DPS and how to play that match a little bit, how to peel with your chains and stuff, Necrotic Strike versus Scourge. We covered almost everything for the guide, boys. So I'm gonna wrap it up here. You can watch me live on twitch.tv/Cervantes TV every day. You can follow my socials to see when I go live. You can always watch this guide on YouTube from my stream if you're watching live. Feel free to ask me anything, and thank you all for watching. Hope that guide helped you guys out. And much love, boys. Take it easy.